Welcome back to Chilling Fireside Stories, where I take you deep into the heart of the world's most perplexing mysteries and chilling tales. The fire crackles, the warmth surrounds you, but tonight's story will send shivers down your spine. As you listen to the soothing sound of the fire, perhaps with a warm drink in hand, let me transport you to a small town in northern England, where the paranormal collided with the everyday in terrifying ways. Before I begin, a quick reminder. If you enjoy these stories and want more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It means so much to me and truly encourages me to keep these stories coming. And if you want to make sure you never miss a tale, tap that bell icon for notifications. Please share this video with fellow mystery lovers too. Thank you for being part of this growing community. Now let's step back in time to Pontefract, West Yorkshire. A quiet, unassuming town that would soon become the center of one of the most famous poltergeist cases in British history. This is the story of the Black Monk of Pontefract, a paranormal enigma that continues to baffle experts, skeptics, and believers alike. To understand the events that unfolded at 30 East Drive, we must first delve into the history of the location itself. Pontefract, a town with roots stretching back to Roman times, is home to centuries of war, executions, and mysterious happenings. The town's rich history is steeped in blood, but one of its darkest chapters seems to focus on a modest council house on a quiet street. The legend of the Black Monk is said to trace back to the 16th century, a time when the church held a tight grip on society. Local historians believe that the Black Monk was a disgraced clergyman from Pontefract Priory who was executed for heinous crimes, including the murder of a young girl. Some say he was hanged nearby, and his body was thrown into an unmarked grave. Was his restless spirit disturbed when the modern housing estate was built centuries later, or was it simply lying in wait for the right moment to make itself known? It wasn't until the 1960s that the supposed Black Monk made his first terrifying appearance, within the home of the unsuspecting Pritchard family. August 1966. The Pritchard family, Joe and Jean, along with their two children, 15-year-old Philip and 12-year-old Diane, moved into 30 East Drive. Like many families in post-war England, they were simply looking for a comfortable place to call home. But from the moment they stepped inside, strange occurrences began to plague their lives. At first, the event seemed almost playful. One summer day, a mysterious white powder began falling from the ceiling, even though there was no apparent source. Despite every attempt to clean it up, the powder would reappear. Water pools formed on the kitchen floor, seemingly from nowhere, even though the house was bone dry. Jean was convinced it was some sort of plumbing issue, but a plumber could find nothing wrong. Light bulbs would blow without reason. Objects would move on their own. Keys, cups, and small furniture. The family was unsettled but brushed it off as perhaps their imaginations running wild. But then things took a darker turn. Doors began slamming shut with violent force. Heavy furniture was upended as if by an unseen hand. A once peaceful home was quickly becoming a nightmare. Soon after, a figure began to make itself known. A shadowy, cloaked figure with a hood that concealed a face. It was tall, menacing, and most disturbingly, completely silent. The children, Diane and Philip, were the first to see it. But it wasn't just an apparition, it was a physical presence. It would tug at their sheets, grab their ankles, and terrify them in the dead of night. The entity quickly earned the title of the Black Monk, because of its distinct black robes, which bore an eerie resemblance to monastic attire. This was no ordinary haunting. Objects didn't just move, they were thrown. The family members didn't just feel uneasy, they were physically attacked. The events at 30 East Drive were relentless, and they only grew more violent. Diane, the youngest member of the family, was particularly targeted. She was thrown from her bed by an invisible force, dragged up the stairs by her hair, and slapped so hard by the unseen entity that handprints were left on her face. The horror was escalating and no one seemed able to stop it. As the disturbances at the Pritchard home grew in intensity, word began to spread. Local priests were called to the house to perform exorcisms, but nothing seemed to work. If anything, the Black Monk seemed to thrive on the attention. Every attempt to rid the house of its dark presence was met with even more aggression. It wasn't long before paranormal investigators, curious neighbors, and even journalists descended upon the house. Photographs were taken of strange orbs of light, cold spots were documented, and eerie sounds were recorded on tape. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, many were still skeptical. One notable investigator, Tom Cuniff, a local historian and paranormal enthusiast, became deeply invested in the case. He believed that the Black Monk was indeed the spirit of the executed monk from centuries ago, and that the house had been built on or near his unmarked grave. Cuniff spent years gathering evidence, interviewing the family, and even staying in the house overnight in an attempt to witness the phenomena himself. What he found was enough to chill even the staunchest of skeptics. But it wasn't just paranormal investigators who were drawn to the house. As the media frenzy around the case grew, so did public interest. Newspapers and TV crews flocked to Pontefract, hoping to capture evidence of the haunting. Some were successful. Stories of objects flying across the room, eerie voices caught on tape, and the terrifying sightings of the Black Monk made headlines across the country. However, with all the media attention came criticism. Was this really a paranormal event, or was it an elaborate hoax orchestrated by the family for fame? Despite the skepticism, those who visited the house, including many of the doubters, often left with a chilling new belief that something truly unexplainable was happening at 30 East Drive. The Pritchard family eventually moved out of the house in the 1970s, but the hauntings didn't stop. New occupants reported similarly disturbing encounters, and paranormal enthusiasts continued to investigate the property. Over the decades, 30 East Drive became one of Britain's most infamous haunted houses, with numerous visitors claiming to have had encounters with the Black Monk. Some described seeing the shadowy figure looming in doorways, while others felt the sensation of being watched or even touched by an unseen force. Electronic devices would malfunction, and strange cold spots would appear in random areas of the house. For those brave enough to stay overnight, the experience was unforgettable. And yet, despite all the attention and investigations, no one has been able to definitively explain the haunting. Was it truly the ghost of a disgraced monk, or was it something far more sinister? While the Pritchard family's departure from 30 East Drive brought a brief respite to the story, it didn't take long before new tenants and curious investigators began experiencing their own encounters. What makes this particular haunting so remarkable is the consistency of the phenomena, spanning across decades, with numerous independent witnesses all reporting similar experiences. In recent years, the house has attracted the attention of ghost hunters, paranormal research teams, and curious tourists from around the world. One of the most prominent modern investigators to visit the property is well-known British ghost hunter Yvette Fielding, who brought her team to 30 East Drive for the popular television show Most Haunted. What transpired during that investigation became one of the most terrifying episodes in the series' history. Fielding and her team experienced furniture moving by itself, sudden drops in temperature, and unexplained noises. But the most chilling moment came when an investigator was physically attacked, thrown to the ground by an invisible force. Despite the team's years of experience with haunted locations, many agreed that the intensity of the haunting at 30 East Drive was unmatched. The Black Monk, it seemed, was as powerful and dangerous as ever. Other paranormal investigators, equipped with modern technology, have attempted to communicate with the Black Monk, hoping to capture concrete evidence of his presence. EVP recordings, electronic voice phenomena, have been particularly compelling. In one chilling recording, an investigator asks, "Who are you?" To which a deep, distorted voice responds, "I am death." Thermal cameras have also picked up strange anomalies in the house, with cold spots that seem to move with intent. Some investigators have even reported seeing full-bodied apparitions of the Black Monk, standing in doorways or lurking in the shadows, watching them. Despite these terrifying encounters, the mystery of 30 East Drive remains unsolved. Theories abound. Some believe the house sits on a ley line, a natural energy pathway that could be amplifying the paranormal activity. Others are convinced the Black Monk is tied to the site of an old gallows that once stood nearby, where many were executed, their spirits left restless. And then there are those who think the entity may be a poltergeist, a malevolent force that feeds off the fear and negative energy of the people within the house. The haunting at 30 East Drive has attracted not only believers but also skeptics who have attempted to debunk the stories. Some theorize that the events could be the result of mass hysteria, where the power of suggestion causes people to believe they are experiencing paranormal activity. Others argue that the disturbances could be explained by natural phenomena, drafts of cold air, faulty plumbing, or the creaking of an old house. But the sheer volume of eyewitness accounts, coupled with the violent nature of the haunting, makes it difficult to dismiss the Black Monk as a mere figment of imagination. Even those who entered the house as non-believers have often left with stories of unexplained phenomena. One possible explanation is that the haunting may be a residual haunting, an imprint of past traumatic events that plays over and over again, without direct interaction with the living. Residual hauntings are often linked to locations where violence or tragedy occurred, and the theory fits the history of 30 East Drive. The house may be caught in a loop, replaying the horror of the monk's execution and the crimes he was said to have committed. On the other hand, there are those who believe the Black Monk is an intelligent haunting, an entity that is aware of the people in the house and is actively engaging with them. The violent physical attacks on the Pritchard family and subsequent visitors suggest that whatever is haunting the house is not just a passive observer. It's a dangerous presence with the ability to cause harm. Perhaps the most chilling thought of all is that the Black Monk may never leave. As long as there are people willing to step inside 30 East Drive, he will continue to make his presence known, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his next opportunity to strike. The haunting of 30 East Drive remains one of the most perplexing and violent paranormal cases in history. What began as a series of strange occurrences in a quiet family home has turned into a decades-long nightmare, with no end in sight. The Pritchard family may have been the first to encounter the Black Monk, but they were certainly not the last. And as long as the house stands, as long as people continue to enter, the Black Monk will be waiting to remind us that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. Thank you for joining me by the fire tonight. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me continue bringing you these unsettling mysteries. Tap the bell icon so you never miss a new story, and share this video with anyone who loves a good mystery. Until next time, stay warm, stay safe, and remember, not all mysteries can be solved.